Hello, friends. How are you? How's things and how's life where you are? Please tell me. Please let me know. This week is Gen Con in Indianapolis, largest gaming convention in North America, board gaming convention in North America. And I thought I would take the whole week to talk about games because that's just what's in my life right this minute. And I asked you to ask questions. Lots of you asked questions, and so we're going to answer one of those questions today. Also, yesterday I did a question from California Chris. He kind of cheated and asked a whole bunch of questions at once. So I'm going to pick another one of his questions just because it's already here on my phone and I don't have to read something else. Okay, his question is, most full-size games have to some degree upscaled their components, parentheses, to keep up with the crowdfunding games maybe. And while I love deluxified style games, I do miss the board on the table covered in cubes and wooden shapes. There's a charm to that, and it keeps the game relatively affordable. So it's kind of not a question, but he basically says, it ends up involving into any memories about this. I don't have specific memories about components, but I do want to speak to the componentification of games. I agree with you. Like, games have gotten more heavily unique, I guess. You don't necessarily find the little Settlers of Catan houses in a whole bunch of games anymore. You don't find the little road pieces in a whole bunch of games or square cubes in a whole bunch of games unless you're playing train games. That's just not a thing that's happening. And part of that is, I think, yes, to keep up with crowdfunding, but maybe not. Maybe crowdfunding showed us that people were willing to pay for it, is maybe the way to think about that. People are willing to pay for the upgraded components. And in our hobby, remember, this is a hobby, there's always going to be tiers to this hobby, right? The people who aren't in this hobby, who still consider themselves board gamers, are the people that are going to Walmart and Target and buying Uno and buying, Clue or Monopoly or Scrabble or whatever, and playing those games and having a blast with their friends. And for them, they don't need fancy components. They need a $10 price tag. That's the most important thing to them. But if you're already paying $40 for a game, but I can offer you a cool, upgraded version for $50, why not? And if you're paying $60 for a game and I can offer you the awesome version for $70, that seems like even a better deal. So why not? And I'm a sucker for this sometimes. I'm a sucker for this on games that I keep. For instance, Earth. Earth has been, for 2 years now, that the only game I want to play. I'm not kidding you when I say that. When I go upstairs and I look at my collection, if you said let's play a game, Earth would be what I grab and take off my shelf. It'd be the only thing I grab and take off my shelf. It's the only game I want to play. So when they did a Kickstarter to offer a $100 upgrade, yeah, I bought it immediately. Like, I want that. I want fancy little trees and beautiful little tokens. And that's for that particular game. Now, there's lots of other games in my collection that I love playing. For instance, I don't know. Let's pick. Trying to think of a game that doesn't have a whole lot going on. Let's pick like one of the Terraforming Mars games. Yeah, you can get like dual layer boards or whatever, but I don't want like any kind of crazy fancy 3D terrain on that game. I don't think it would help the gameplay. It would just kind of clutter things up, and it doesn't. It just gets in the way. So I wouldn't buy that kind of upgrade, even though I do love that game. Or, a simple game like Imperial Settlers, my number 2 game ever, right? Like, it's still the top of my list, even though I would rather play Earth right now. It's fine with the little laser-cut wooden components. And that's the other thing. Laser-cut wooden components became stupid cheap. Back in the day, you basically were stuck with these shapes of wooden pieces that were mass manufactured and available to everybody, until somebody came along and said, we can do these laser cut shapes and we can make them look and feel just as nice as the German wooden shapes for slightly more money. And as a publisher, if you can make the game slightly more flashy, you're more likely to sell. And so a lot of publishers kind of use, those were upgraded components. When you open that box and you see custom cut wooden components, those cost significantly more than the bag of cubes, but not so much that you have to jack the price, out of control. And so a lot of publishers said, man, if I put the extra dollar in these components per unit, when you're buying 10,000 units, it might cost me an extra dollar to upgrade to these awesome, like, screen printed laser cut things. As the consumer, you're still paying the $60. It doesn't change the price for you, but suddenly you're getting this bigger value. And then it just becomes kind of a race to the bottom to pack the most value in the box for the customer so you can get more eyes on your product. And unfortunately, I mean, if you go look back through the history of crowdfunding at the games that have been published at ridiculous prices with crazy components that nobody's playing and nobody's talking about because they were just component sales, that's a sad, sick part of that race to the bottom. I agree with you. I would rather take solid gameplay over flashy components. But when I have that solid game, and I love it, Earth, and I want flashy components, I'm happy that they're available. Now, you could flip this around the other way and say there are people who will not buy a game because it costs too much because it has flashy components. I got a good example of that, and that is a game called Era. I don't remember who published Era, but Era is basically it is a roll and write game. It is Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age, basically, but with plastic stackable components that make your roll and write look big and fancy. And it's a neat game, but it was like $80. And it could have been $15. Like, it could have been printed for like $1 per unit, maybe $2 per unit. But instead they chose to pile on these components and really make this thing stand out. And a lot of people bought it for that, but a lot of people said, I'm not spending $80 on a game that I'm not sure of. And then you come to find out it's basically just any other roll and write tile game. It felt a little bit, well, it kind of hurt a little bit. I own it. I think it's a great game, but I honestly would just rather play Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age. It's just a better game in my opinion, and I didn't spend $80 on it. So there are flip sides, Look at somebody like Chip Theory. I don't want to say that Chip Theory is gouging because of their prices. In fact, Chip Theory for the longest time was not in distribution because they realized they couldn't sell the games that they were manufacturing with massive amounts of clay tokens in them for $200. They needed to sell it for $100, and the only way to do that is if there was no person involved in that transaction because it cost them $70 or whatever. Like maybe they make $20 per unit sold if they can sell direct to the consumer, and that's what they did. Because, ultimately if that had gone through distribution and retail, it would have been a $250 game, and nobody's paying for that. Nobody's buying that. But they proved that they could do direct sales and make it work by making components that look awesome, feel awesome, pair that with a game that's awesome, and sell it at a price where people don't feel, that's going to hurt a little bit, but damn, it's worth it. And nobody can compete with that because the rest of the industry was worried about distribution sales and didn't have direct sales channels that could handle or that could push units like that. There's a lot of facets to this thing. I think that people want fancier components in their hobby style games. People want affordable components in their Walmart games. Not to disparage people who buy games at Walmart. Trust me, I have them in my house. I love them. I play Monopoly Deal. I played a lot of those games, and I have a blast with them, and they're worth the price. Speaking of Monopoly Deal, I would love to have a version of that game printed on reasonable cardstock. The game comes with basically printed computer paper. They're terrible cards. I would absolutely pay more money for a better printed version of the game. Are you aware of one? Let me know in the comments because it's a great game. Okay, thank you for asking the question. Thank you for watching the video. I very much appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Please like the video. If you're new here, please subscribe. We're still growing. I still feel great about all of this. I'm having a blast doing these videos. I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We are learning 20 things to start doing in your relationships. Number 13 is keep your promises and tell the truth. I told you. Be loyal, tell the truth. Lying, cheating, and screwing with people's feelings and emotions hurts. Never mess with some feelings just because you're unsure of yours. Ah, ha, ha. Just because you're unsure of yours is, I can tell you as a former liar, the reason why you do it. The reason why you don't keep your promises is because you're unsure of your own feelings. Figure yourself out, and you can be much more open and truthful with everybody around you, and it is the best.